guys, so this is my new what if. Now after this what if, I am gonna be uploading like a good amount of like six like at least like a lot of action figure comedy because I gotta get up and get back on that part of my channel. So I'm gonna be uploading more of that after this what if, and then after that I'll upload all my part 3s and part 2s like I said I was gonna do, like what if Callum was Kryptonian part 2, and also what if Deku was a Greek legend part 3, also what if Deku, no, not what Deku was Greek, I mean what if, what was it, yeah, I already uploaded that video, so yeah, so this is part 1 of what if the X-Men were in the MCU. Now basically I'm gonna be starting off with the original cast of the X-Men, not Wolverine, just the original X-Men, and I'm only gonna be doing like the beginning of the Avengers series, the first Avengers movies and everything like that. So let's get into it, guys. Let's get started. Now the X-Men I'm going off with are going to be the merge of the X-Men from the 2000s and also from the 20s, like right now, the 2000, and also the what was it, 2019, and all the other X-Men, the newer X-Men. So basically, let's get into it, guys. And before I get any farther, I'm going to be listing down all of the actors that might be playing some of the main X-Men. Now, the original cast of X-Men were Beast, Cyclops, Jean, Angel, Iceman, and yeah, that's basically it. I think it was somebody else. No, I think that was, yeah, those were the only X-Men, the first X-Men. And basically, yeah, so the first X-Men movie that will be coming out in the MCU's label, basically the same person, basically, let's say, so Beast will still be played by the same actor that played Beast in the X-Men Apocalypse. Angel will be played by the same character that played Angel in the 2000s X-Men third movie, or X-Men with a Dark Phoenix movie in the 2000s. And also Jean will be played by the actor that played Jean in the X-Men Apocalypse, and Cyclops will be played by the same actor that played him in the 2000s. And for Iceman, he'll be played by the same character that played him, because I'm pretty sure he was only played by one character. So the same person that played him in X-Men Days of Future Past, or X-Men the last movie in the 2000s trilogy, basically he'll be, no, actually scratch that. Dylan O'Brien will be playing Iceman. Dylan O'Brien will be playing Iceman. So yeah, and so let's get into it, guys. Now basically we start our story off with pretty much actually the MCU is gonna be stretched out. Now after the Avengers movie would happen, we would be switched through a movie pretty much segment. So basically doing other Avengers movies and everything, doing Thor's movies and everything else. Doing the Thor movie, after Thor's end credits, we would see a man, we would see a boy in a locker room, basically yelling, crying, and then we see a bright red light blast, and that would be the end of that. So basically, we would get switched about like a couple months, maybe like a year after the a pretty long time after the Thor movie, pretty much before any other MC movies came out. The first X-Men movie that came out. Basically, pretty much this is gonna be a pretty long movie segment because pretty much this movie was actually a part 2, or like a secondary thing, X-Men Origins. So basically, X-Men Origins, the movie. Basically, X-Men Origins, the movie, was just an origin movie that was split up in 5 segments that pretty much went through all the origins. No flashbacks at the actual real time. The actual origins of Angel, Jean, Cyclops, Bobby, and also Beast. And pretty much each of them would have an hour of screen time, so it'd be about like, the movie would be about like, it'd be about 5 hours. So basically, this movie mainly just focused on the main X-Men and Charles Xavier, bringing them together. And near the end of the movie, they were all put together, and they fought the big bad in the movie. That villain in the movie was Magneto. Like originally, Magneto will be played by the same actor that played him in X-Men Apocalypse, because in my opinion, he's the best Magneto. Pretty much, no, well, the best Magneto in my opinion in acting and also in, suit design and everything. And basically, they would fight him all the same, and basically they would have outfits similar to their classic outfits, the blue and yellow ones, like in this picture, but basically the X-Men suits would look exactly like this, just in real life. So basically, they would have fought Magneto in the end of the movie. Basically, all of them just having the same origins. The first origin being Cyclops' origin, and the end off of his story in the movie was him joining Professor Xavier near the end of his origin. For Jean, same thing. Beast, same thing. And Angel, same thing. And Bobby, the last X-Men that was recruited in this universe. Because I'm pretty sure he wasn't the last X-Men, but I don't know. So basically, they would all be recruited by Charles Xavier, and the last, like, extra hour of the movie, the 6 hour of the movie, was just them fighting Magneto, and them winning against Magneto. Magneto, at this point, wouldn't have the Brotherhood of Evil, and he wouldn't have Pietro or Wanda on his side. Now, basically, during Age of Ultron is when the X-Men will be merged or submerged in the Avengers' lives, and also in the MCU more. So basically, everybody in real life, in this what if, in this universe, everybody would be super hype for Civil War. And Civil War would have a bigger budget than, like, about the same budget as Endgame. Pretty much them having a huge budget for this movie because everybody wanted to see X-Men with the Avengers and, well, the MCU now, more than anything. So basically, the X-Men their suits were re-updated, and they would have outfits like this. Basically, their outfits being a little bit modified and looking a little bit more classic-like. Now, before Age of Ultron, another X-Men movie would come out. Now, this X-Men movie would not really be a movie. It would be more like it would be a movie, but it would have a lot more. It'll be a way longer, like super long. About, like, let's say, about hmm about about 7 hours, and pretty much the 7 hour movie was just about the X-Men and pretty much their team emerging and getting bigger. Now, pretty much the plot for this second X-Men movie would basically be taking the events after the last X-Men movie that came out, X-Men Origins, the movie. Basically, this movie would be taking time after that movie. Now we start our story off, and this is how the story will get interested. So basically, we start our story off with Cyclops and Jean basically waking up and them getting ready for training. They would have started training, and basically, the professor would have called them in for another mission about Juggernaut. Now, you would be switched back off of camera, and we were switched on to an old town with none other than Logan walking around. Him pretty much walking around and eventually coming across a mutant. And this mutant would be Kurt. So basically, Logan would have been walking towards the man in a coat with a hoodie on and would have told him, "Bub, are you okay?" Pretty much patting Kurt on the back. Kurt would be frightened and teleport away, but also his tail being pretty much around Logan's leg, pretty much teleporting him with him. Teleporting Logan with him. Logan would be confused, taking his claws out, saying, "What did you do to me, bub? And where are we?" Basically, Kurt having pretty much a frightening expression. Logan, realizing this, Logan let him go, pretty much saying, "What did you do? You're a mutant, right?" Basically, Kurt explained his story. Basically, that's getting cut to his flashback of Kurt's origin and him being put into a river by his mother to save him. Now, basically, what was it? Mystique will still be played by the same actor that played Mystique in X-Men Apocalypse, and they would actually emphasize on Kurt not knowing where his mother, was Mystique, but he will know later on, maybe like in Endgame or probably near somewhere else, some other time in the MCU. Now, basically, doing all of that, we would get switched back to the team fighting, pretty much them dropping off in the Quinjet, them looking around, and them being pretty much them looking around and seeing that Juggernaut was causing havoc. Basically, Bobby was about to shoot some sort of ice beam to try to slow down Juggernaut when he heard a really big, well, sound or some sort of noise. And he looked up and he saw a huge middle, like a straight up train track crushing down towards him. Now, pretty much, Beast grabbed him, pushing him out the way. You probably wonder, and Beast still does have his blue fur. He got his blue fur, and he started his origin the same way. So he did have like 1.5 hours of screen time in the X-Men Origins movie. Basically, he would push Bobby out the way. Basically, him looking around, seeing that Magneto would show up. Magneto was looking around from afar, controlling his middle, not trying to be seen. Basically, him psychically connecting with Charles. Charles telling him to stop this now. Magneto was telling him that this town has been suppressing mutants for years, and this same town would actually be this town Logan and Kurt just left. Now, basically, Logan and Kurt would pop back in the alleyway or the area, Logan found him, and they would look out of the alleyway, seeing middle buses and cars being thrown around, people yelling out in havoc, and pretty much laser beams, ice blast, pretty much buildings getting kicked and bashed in. A blue furry guy running around, jumping on a man with some sort of red armor, with some sort of type of weird looking helmet on his head. The man trying to beat the other guy. So basically, they would be seeing all of this happening, and they would see multiple things flying around as well, a laser blast, and also the other things. Now, basically, they would see a man with wings flying around, dropping pretty much a lot. I mean, like a lot of, what was it, X bombs or so, whatever. Basically, pretty much Angel tried to enhance his fighting tactic. He didn't know a lot about fighting, but he did actually take some, X-Men tech like X bombs or smoke bombs and stuff like that, and started flying them and dropping them around when he got stopped by pretty much one of those, what was it, a metal pipe that wrapped around him, throwing him into a building and knocking him out. So basically, Logan would have seen Kurt and would have told Kurt to stay back. Logan running in and trying to find an exit out. Now, pretty much, Logan looked back, telling Kurt to get out of here, and Kurt would have teleported away. Now, Logan would have ran off. Basically, Logan trying to get out the area, but getting stopped by a huge, pretty much, car sliding right towards him, crushing him. Cyclops would have seen this, basically him running over to the car, trying to kick the car or pull the car over Logan. This car was like a mini car, like a clown car, so Cyclops was able to slightly pull it over enough for Logan to get out, and Logan started to regenerate. Now, Cyclops was confused that Logan was still alive, because he just thought Logan was alive, but not in this good condition, because Logan was basically regenerating very quickly. Logan got back up, looking towards Cyclops, very much saying, "Thanks for the help, bub," pretty much walking off. Now, Cyclops would have told him, saying, "You're a mutant too." Basically, Logan saying, "Yeah, and I don't want to join your little team." Basically, Logan got hit with another, pretty much, truck or something, got hit in the back by a metal pipe, impelling him. Now, basically, the rest of the team would be focused on Juggernaut, throwing him back or trying to stop him from destroying any more of the town. Now, basically, Logan would have started pulling himself or cut the bar in half with his claws, pulling them out of his back. Now, basically, X-Men Origins, Wolverine's X-Men Origins would actually be made at the same time, but the timeline of that movie would be switched to about a couple years, pretty good couple of years before the X-Men started. Basically, Beast and the rest of the team were getting absolutely folded by Juggernaut. Pretty much, Beast couldn't handle him anymore. He was already knocked out. Angel was out. Jean was trying to push him back with most of how she can do, and she can get to his head at all. Now, basically, they were wondering for a miracle, and basically, Logan said, I'll help you out. Basically, Logan regenerating, coughing up the blood, and taking his jacket off, running towards the Goliath that's named Juggernaut. He would jump on Juggernaut, slashing him in the chest, basically starting Juggernaut for enough for Jean to gain just a hold of his body to pull him up into the air, and for her to use some of her telekinesis to pretty much unclip the clips that were, connected to the helmet that Juggernaut had, and basically got to Juggernaut's head, making him pretty much fade out of reality into a mind space where Jean would pretty much temporarily make him brain dead or temporarily just put him in a coma-like state, and pretty much S.H.I.E.L.D. would actually show up and take Juggernaut away. Now, basically, Juggernaut would not be played by anybody. It would just be a random guy that would be a new actor. You know what, actually? Yeah, it would be just played by a new actor. Now, basically, they would go on to basically just stop altogether, and pretty much they would stop there. Now, pretty much after S.H.I.E.L.D. told them to leave, they left, and they were pretty much introduced to Logan and Kurt. Now, basically, Kurt told Logan, who are you, and where are we? Basically, Logan said to be quiet, bub, and they were explaining about the X-Men and the Charles Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, for mutants that have no home to go to and need to learn where their place is. Now, basically, they would be interested, and Kurt would actually greatly take this offer and join the X-Men. Logan was kind of hesitant, but he didn't want to leave the kid that he just met that was going through a lot, because Logan did get the whole entire life story with the flashback of Kurt telling him about his origin, about he was retributed, and also he was pretty much treated like a devil after pretty much one circus act he did, or something like that. So basically, Logan would have joined the X-Men. Him being a little bit of a distant member, but still being a part of the X-Men. Now, basically, after that, the movie would have a time jump of at least about like a year, and basically the rest of the people in this picture would be the X-Men. Kitty Pryde, Jean, Kitty Pryde. Okay, the new X-Men that would join the X-Men would be Jubilee would join the X-Men. Cyclops would join the X-Men. I know Colossus would join the X-Men. Rogue would be part of the X-Men, and Storm would be part of the X-Men, and Gambit. So the only people that weren't in the X-Men at that point were Cable, and I do not know her name, but yeah. So basically, everybody else, they would be in the X-Men. So basically, the X-Men did become bigger and bigger. Now, basically, at this point, everybody would be a little bit more, around and more connected. Now, they would still have the same suit designs at this point, and basically they would be a very more put together team. Now, basically, through the rest of the movie, it was very generic. They just went on battles against multiple X-Men villains, just 2 or 3. After pretty much the end of the movie, focused on a big bad fight against Juggernaut and pretty much Magneto, and also Magneto near the end of the movie saying that I'll be back, getting away pretty much by the help of, let's say a certain friend. Now, basically, we're gonna end it off there for this movie, because that movie would end off like that, and the X-Men would be pretty big. Now, basically, after the X-Men were put together, basically, over the years, the X-Men had pretty much Easter eggs, and also a lot more Easter eggs and pretty much hints to them by talking about them in other, movies. Now, basically, doing the whole entire Age of Ultron, the Age of Ultron movie would happen, and basically everything up until when Wanda and Pietro hit the scene in Age of Ultron would change. That's when stuff would start changing. But basically, instead of Hydra having Pietro, Hydra would actually have pretty much Pietro and Wanda, but they would actually be experimenting on them because they actually were mutants. And basically, they were mutants. They weren't experimenting on. They were truly blood mutants that were the biological children of Magneto. Now, basically, would be they would be still experimented on by the Mind Stone. Basically, them not knowing they're mutants, but them still being experimented by the Mind Stone, and them still having the same type of pretty much conditions. The Mind Stone just activated their mutations, meaning that they didn't have any mutations yet. So that Mind Stone the only thing Mind Stone did was enhance their mutations. Just basically, the Mind Stone just enhanced Pietro's mutation, made him faster, about the same speed as X-Men Apocalypse Quicksilver. And basically for Wanda's magic just got the same amount of power, just a little bit more powerful, but not too powerful to make WandaVision any more different. Now basically, it would continue off with basically Wanda and Pietro going on with their normal lives. Basically, Wanda and Pietro fighting the Avengers or getting away from the Avengers. Wanda's still making that mind trick with pretty much Tony, them leaving and getting out. They would have left, but they would actually go straight towards Amanda. They were told by their whole lives that they were her father, and if anything happened to Hydra, to go there by a scientist that was, care about them, like daughter and son. Now, basically, they would go to pretty much a type of mansion, and this would be Magneto's house, or the Brotherhood's base of operation. And the only people that were in the Brotherhood at this point was Toad, and the same actor that would play pretty much. Okay, so who should play Toad? Oh, you know what? You guys can decide who should play Toad. I'm just not gonna get into that. Now, Toad and Mystique and Toad, Mystique, Toad, Avalanche, Mystique, and Juggernaut were the only people in the Brotherhood of Evil. The Brotherhood of Mutants, the Blood Brotherhood of Mutants. I think that was it. The Brotherhood of Mutants, or the Brotherhood of Evil. Basically, Magneto would have introduced and would have been confused of why mutants are here. Pretty much them not Magneto not really knowing why they didn't go to Charles Xavier's School for Gifted. Now basically Magneto would tell them, why are you here? Basically them explaining to him that we've been told that you are our father. Now basically they would be confused, but basically they would have a mutant that they were friends with that had some sort of mutation that gave him the ability to basically do, father or like DNA test. It was like a weird mutation. Basically, he could take the DNA of somebody else and merge them together and basically find out if they were related or not. And also he can change DNA, making mutations stronger, or just taking away the mutation just at once. But he needs at least like 2 or 3 minutes on physical contact on the head, the chest, or the arm of the user, and the person has to be awake and not restrained at all. It just has to be awake. So he has to at least have grab on really tight to the person to make sure they don't try to push him off of them. Now basically he would see that Wanda and Vision are Wanda and Pietro are Magneto's real children. Now Magneto would have slightly not doubted it when he heard about it the first time, but he would have started teaching them a little bit. Now basically he would teach Wanda because Wanda's power set was somewhat similar to his. Now Pietro ran around pretty much was enhancing his speed, running on walls, stopping time, basically looking around, seeing how he can stop time as he runs, saying that this is super cool. Now basically he'll be running around and he would have the same power set as X-Men Apocalypse Quicksilver. Now basically after they would be having a little bit of time with uh Magneto. Then we get switched back to the X-Men's part of the view, and basically Tony would get a call from Hank actually, because Hank would hear the news about mutants from pretty much Tony a call later because Hank didn't call, he just saw the voicemail. So Hank said what are the mutants' abilities? Basically, the shield going on about how one is weird and has some sort of telekinetic um mental abilities, and the other one has some sort of superhuman speed ability. Now um, basically Hawkeye will still get injured, but a little bit more worse because Pietro was like super fast, way faster, so he did hit Hawkeye a lot more harder. So basically, Pietro would have we get switched back to the X-Men, and basically the only X-Men that would be in the Avengers movie would be Logan and Gambit. Now basically, what was it? No, Logan, Iceman, Cyclops, and Gambit. So those are the only X-Men that would be in, Age of Ultron. Now basically, Logan would have been called by the Avengers or Shield to aid the Avengers in this whole entire thing about Hydra. Now basically, Hank would actually be called to help Tony and pretty much Bruce about the whole entire thing about pretty much everything. Basically, they would be going on to fighting, and basically for Beast's design, Beast would actually have more or less a design, a CGI design, but his design would be a lot more bigger, about 2 times bigger than the average human. Not like Hulk size, but big enough to get to the same height or mass that he is in the comics, not being too skinny or too human, just being buff and as big as he is in the comics compared to other people. So basically, and pretty much half of his thing would be a bodysuit, but some of it would be CGI, like his pretty much fingers and all sorts of other stuff. Not his fingers, but like his eyes and his growling and his his face. Not his face, like his growling and his mouth and stuff. So basically, they would be working on the whole Tesseract and everything, and basically, Hank would have actually been driven there or taken there by Logan, because Logan would be a pretty good driver, but like getting on his old man Logan driving thing. So basically, he would drop off Beast there, and actually would have picked up Kurt, because Kurt would have been on the town. Kurt having the same thing that he did in X-Men Evolutions in the TV show, with the whole entire what was it, watch that can make him look human. Now basically, Kurt would still be played by the same actor that played him in X-Men Apocalypse. Him just pretty much the Kurt's human form, just looking like the same actor, just without the special effects. Now basically, they would have been going out in town, and pretty much Logan would have been training Kurt in fighting. Kurt would have gotten a lot better in fighting using his teleportation, his tail as a weapon to pull down his enemies' weapons or arms to make them more disorientated, so he can get an upper hand in the fight. And also, pretty much his smoke, just using his smoke as or his dust that he leaves under after he teleports, leaving it as sort of a blinding technique, teleporting around his enemy multiple times to get enough smoke from the other dimension he teleports to try to get it around the person's body and try to disorientate them to not seeing where he is. Now basically, what was it? Basically, we get switched back to the X-Men's point of view when they would be experimenting with the Tesseract and all other stuff, and basically testing it, or not really testing it, just looking on it. Now, basically, we would get switched after everybody else. We would get switched all the way when Ultron was made. Now, Ultron will be made, and basically we get switched all the way to basically Ultron in the whole entire, pretty much, not all the way. We would get switched to Ultron, and Ultron pretty much attacking the Avengers in the pretty much game night or party night they were having. Basically, they would still be pulling the hammer. Basically, Hank trying to pull the hammer, but not really getting anything. Beast, Hank McCoy. So basically, Hank would try to pull the hammer, not really getting anything, not being worthy. And guys, do you think Beast should be worthy? I don't know. I might, but I am gonna at least make. I am gonna at least pit two X-Men on each team of the in game or on Infinity War. I'm gonna at least make at least one X-Men worthy. So, what X-Men should wield the hammer? So basically, Hank would have not been able to lift the hammer. Basically, him actually being the last one before Ultron stepped up the game and pretty much interrupted the game. Him, well, doing the whole entire Pinocchio thing. I don't know, strings on me. He would have attacked the Avengers, and Beast would have been helping them. The fight going a little bit more quicker. Beast jumping on robots, throwing them through buildings, through the windows, ripping them apart, and growling and screaming. Pretty much, just throwing them down to the ground, throwing them through fake trees, or fake plants, and pretty much doors and tables all around, destroying the robots pretty quickly. Basically, Ultron would have been took down by Thor, and basically, Ultron would have transformed his consciousness to something else, his new body. Now, basically, since PHO and Wanda would have been with pretty much Magneto, they would actually leave Magneto one night, basically them looking around the whole entire thing, them getting communicated or talked to over some technology from Ultron. Ultron would have grabbed a hold of them and they would go to Ultron to see what he was about. Ultron would have told them the same thing I did originally, saying that your father wasn't there for the rest of your life, but I am. I can be there for eternity. I don't age, I don't get sick, I don't die. Basically, Ultron giving them the same type of offer, and them slightly taking it, and them still being slightly loyal to their father that they, direly needed as a child. But basically, we would get switched back to the X-Men, and they would be confused about Ultron. Now, pretty much instead of Thor, Hank would actually get angry, grabbing Tony and pinning him to the wall, saying you made artificial intelligence that can kill us and knows everything about us. Basically, we would get confused. Pretty much Tony and the rest of the Avengers would try to, take McCoy or back McCoy off of Tony. Now, basically, they would fight the same way, and slightly McCoy just left the Avengers Tower because he didn't want to deal with this, so he just left and went back to the X Mansion, getting picked up by Logan, and also having Kurt in the back seat. Basically, them driving back to the X-Men, back to the pretty much Charles Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Now, they would have drove back in there, and basically Pietro would have been running around, pretty much spying on the X-Men. Now, Pietro would have ran over and would have seen them, and basically run into the X-Men's, and pretty much passed through all the security, pretty much running through the whole entire mansion, looking around, and eventually running it back out and reporting back to Mystique. Because Mystique told Pietro that basically Magneto needs some intel, but Mystique needed that intel. Magneto never wanted it, or never needed it. Now, basically, Pietro would have been double crossing her, and also would have ran back to pretty much would have ran back to Ultron. Basically, Ultron and Pietro and Wanda showing up at pretty much at Claw's factory, and then pretty much Pietro doing the same thing, but actually doing the same thing with the bullets before Claw even picks up the gun. Now, Claw picks up the gun, shooting it, seeing nothing happening, and Pietro holding out the bullets in his hand. Him pretty much saying that you're really slow. Really, really slow. Basically, Pietro and Wanda would have done the same type of thing, and basically the Avengers would have shown up. The Avengers would have shown up, but also they would have Logan with them, because S.H.I.E.L.D. would have called in Logan to help them, and also pretty much Cap would have also called in to ask for at least 2 X-Men to come with us for this whole entire thing. Pretty much Cap, knowing that Pietro in this universe was a lot stronger, or like knowing that Pietro, in his perspective, was really strong and really fast, and we needed more team members. So basically, the X-Men did give them Iceman and Logan. Yeah, pretty much they gave him what was it, Bobby and Logan, and basically Bobby and Logan would have shown up. Basically, at this point, pretty much Logan's outfit being modified. Logan's outfit just looking like his classic Jubilee X-Men outfit, and Bobby just having the same type of Iceman look he did, not just having just nothing, just his ice form as his suit. Basically, Bobby and Logan would have shown up. They're jumping from a helicopter, not from a parachute, showing up there, pretty much getting in there and showing up there. Now, basically, Logan, they didn't know, was still played by the same actor. No, they would have shown up there, and pretty much Ultron would have looked at them, saying another mutants. This would be fun. Basically, Pietro and Wanda would have shown up, and they would have started fighting. Now, basically, Pietro would have seen everything, and this is when we get our first X-Men or like Quicksilver scene. Everything being slowed down, and Pietro walking around. Now, when Pietro was even walking around, he would still have those blue streaks of energy or speed on his body still. So he'd be looking around, walking around very slowly, seeing everything super slow, just slowing down, almost to the point where everything looked, stand still. Basically, Logan pretty much having his claws pop out and him jumping upwards and seeing Iceman about to shoot some sort of ice beam towards Ultron. Now, basically, Pietro would have grabbed Iceman, pretty much running him all the way on the other side of New York City, basically stranding him there, him running back, and pretty much him running around, seeing that the hammer, him grabbing a hammer, but seeing that it pretty much slam dunked him into a bunch of crates, knocking him out cold. Now, basically, Pietro was knocked out cold because in this universe, in this world, or in this time, Thor threw his hammer hella hard. So basically, Pietro got, folded by the hammer. Now, basically, Pietro would have slowly came back to reality, waking up right when Wanda was, doing mind tricks on the Avengers. Now, basically, Iceman and Ultron actually start to be losing because Logan was still, kind of helping Tony with the whole entire fighting thing with Ultron. And basically, Ultron was seeing that Logan's claws were cutting through his armor just a little bit. Basically, Ultron being kind of, interested in the middle or the power that, Logan had. Basically, Ultron thinking about capturing Logan. Now, he would have actually thought about that, but Logan would have, in his, moment of thinking, Logan would have gotten a good scratch into his chest. Basically, Ultron shooting a huge beam of energy towards Logan into the chest, incapacitating Logan. But if any normal person was hit with that blast, they would have been, to Valhalla, straight to the Lord. Basically, Logan started being incapacitated, but he was still regenerating. Now, basically, Ultron would have went back for his fight with, Tony, and basically we get switched back with Logan. Now, basically, Logan would have been, no, not Logan, Bobby or Iceman. He would be using his ice powers to basically make the same type of ice, thing he did in X and, Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends with the whole entire ice slide thing he did with the sky and everything, making the ice slide all the way towards the boat area that Crane's factory or Claw's factory was at. Him getting down there, about to freeze all of the vibranium, but him getting punched in the back of the head, getting incapacitated by Pietro. Pietro would have been running around more and more. In this universe, Pietro has the same speed and powers as Pietro from X-Men Apocalypse, but it's just that if he uses that, amount of speed, like stopping time as he runs type of thing, he does take him out, and eventually he'll go back to running at normal speed that original Pietro did for about an hour. So basically, Pietro was slowing down, and Pietro was slowing down more and more until when pretty much, Wanda was stopped by stopped before she touched Hawkeye's mind. Hawkeye put the same electric arrow on her head, and he was kicked back into a wall. And Pietro ran her out there, seeing that Pietro was pretty much out of breath and also was getting slower, and he was getting slower, and he had to wait an hour to at least get all of his speed back up. Basically, Wanda looked around, telling him to do one more thing, and basically, her still doing the mind trick with Bruce. Now, basically, with Banner. So basically, they would have done everything was still gone the same way. Pretty much, Hulk would have tried to attack the city. And instead of the Hulkbuster would still come, but pretty much Logan would actually get to the Hulkbuster. No, get to Hulk first. Basically, Logan would have went on to see Pietro and Wanda leave and go to, do the whole time mind trick with Hulk. Basically, Logan looking around, seeing that Korean had some sort of motorcycle instead of the storage factory or the storage place of the ship or the area his Claw's factory was, and he drove the motorcycle straight to the city, getting there before pretty much was it Tony, because Tony was still occupied with Ultron. Now basically, he would have drone there because let's just say the motorcycle was powered on vibranium energy or vibranium, or was made out of vibranium for some reason. Basically, it drove down there, and this motorcycle would look something like the Tron motorcycles, just without the light, or just without the lights. So basically, Logan would have arrived to New York, parking the motorcycle and running straight towards pretty much Banner or Hulk. Him grinning, saying, "Let's do this, bub." Him jumping on top of Logan, and us getting cut off and switched back to the X-Men's whole entire thing. No, and then we getting switched back to the Avengers. Now we get switched back to the X-Men, because Avengers just do the same thing. They just fight, and we just see their past memories and everything. And basically, X-Men, pretty much Bobby would have actually gotten mind control, because Wanda would have mind controlled or put Bobby's pretty much mind thing on him before Pietro ran her out of the ship. And basically, Bobby was going through memories of of when he's pretty much abilities activated. Him freezing that bully that he did originally, and the comics. Him basically seeing that everybody looked at him like a monster, like a devil. And pretty much Pietro got snapped out of it, getting slapped back into reality by Thor. Because Thor got slapped back into reality after this whole entire thing with, the Infinity Stones and everything. But basically, Thor would have been pretty much gone to that same type of thing that he did, going to the pool and everything, and trying to find the truth. Now basically, what was it? So basically, Logan would have gone down and started to fight pretty much Hulk. Now the fight would have been designated like in the middle of New York, and he would have been thrown through buildings, but Hulk would have actually gotten really goodly and a greatly amount of damage done by him by, Logan. Logan would be scratching, clawing, and stabbing Hulk's vital organs, or trying to get the most damage that he can into Hulk's body. Now Logan eventually was slapped down to the ground, and you're probably wondering Jubilee Logan outfit. Basically, Logan's outfit in his MCU style just looks like this. Logan would have started to get thrown around more and more. Logan getting back up, being unmasked for this time. Basically, Logan getting back up, going for more strikes and claws towards pretty much Hulk. Eventually, he would get strike down and get knocked out cold into the concrete. And eventually, seconds after that, Hulk showed up and started to. No, what was it? I think it was. No, was it? Hulkbuster would show up and start fighting, Hulk the same way. But the fight going a little bit more quicker because Hulk was still injured, but he was healing through the fight. So yeah. So yeah, guys. So that's how the X-Men. That's only how the X-Men would change. Basically, what was it? That's how the X-Men would change Age of Ultron, and we're gonna be skipping to the Sokovia fight because the only thing that would change with Pietro's super speed being super strong, him not dying. Pietro would have not died, and he would actually save Hawkeye and the girl, and would have saved multiple other people. About like a good 50, the whole entire city was actually saved. Actually, no casualties were lost, like literally, because Pietro ran so fast that he got everybody out of danger. So Pietro saved the day. Technically, he was the best Avenger that day. So basically, Pietro doing the whole. And you're probably wondering, how did Pietro turn over the new leaf? How did he, do everything? Now, basically, he would have still got betrayed by Ultron, and also he would have, well, never seen anything wrong with the X-Men because, what was it? Magneto didn't talk about, the X-Men, I mean, the Avengers at all. Basically, them going on to fight everybody else. Now, basically, they will start fighting, and eventually, they would have gone to, well, Sokovia getting off of the island, or the pretty much, thing that was going up into the sky, and pretty much Pietro getting out the way, getting Wanda, and also since Wanda wasn't cut off guard, Wanda and pretty much the city didn't fall. And basically, Pietro, since nobody was on the island anymore, she actually did let it fall. So yeah, because no one was in a 50-mile radius, even off the island down to the ground. They were all to safety because Pietro ran all the way down. Because I'm pretty sure Pietro can do pretty much anything. Because X-Men Apocalypse, um, you know, you know, Quicksilver is OP as freak, bro. Like he's too OP, dude. So basically, that's why I gave Pietro that little, slowing down thing. So because he doesn't have super stamina, and X-Men Apocalypse Quicksilver probably does. So basically, Pietro pretty much, saved the day. Now basically, everybody else did the same type of fighting technique, just with Pietro in the background at all of the scenes, just running around. And basically, Pietro would have done the same type of slowing down thing near the end, but him not slowing down, doing the whole time how Ultron tried to shoot, Hawkeye. Now basically, that's how he would end off and how he would change was it Age of Ultron. Now we get switched off of Age of Ultron, and through the end credits of Age of Ultron, we see the X-Men, and we see three new members, or three new pretty much shoes of people walking to the X-Men's mansion, saying, "This is Charles Xavier's mansion." Very, very interesting. Now basically, those three X-Men, or new members of the X-Men, would actually be, what was it? Kitty Pryde, because I'm pretty sure, like Rogue. Yeah, Kitty Pryde was already, Kitty Pryde is already an X-Men. So Colossus. So Colossus, so Colossus and Thunderbird was the next one that was introduced. We seen Blue Boots, and basically, the next person that was introduced in the end credits was Banshee. So basically, Banshee, Thunderbird, and Colossus were the only next three X-Men that would be introduced in the X-Men, pretty much, timeline, or the X-Men team in the MCU. Now basically, doing that, basically, guys, this is where I'm gonna leave it off at. Now, part 2 will be about how it would change Civil War, and how it would change Endgame, and also Infinity War. So I'm gonna be, the same, like 3 movies in that. So for part 3 will probably be how it would change, basically Disney Plus TV shows and everything. And I might put the X-Men in Captain America and the Winter Soldier TV show, and also I might fit them in WandaVision, because they have to get into WandaVision, because Pietro's in WandaVision, but Pietro is still alive. So like WandaVision might not be at all come to true, but WandaVision might just be completely different and just be about Wanda's life and how she would live with the X-Men. Now, basically, Wanda and Pietro will still be on the Avengers, but should Wanda and Pietro be on the Avengers, or should they join the X-Men doing Infinity War or doing Civil War? Now, basically, guys, so basically, So what X-Men, like, should the whole entire X-Men be in Civil War? Because I might put them in there. So yeah, so only 3 X-Men that are going to be added to the X-Men team until part 3 are going to be Banshee, Colossus, and Thunderbird. So basically, only people that are in the X-Men right now are Cyclops, Cyclops, Jean, Wolverine, um, Nightcrawler, and all the others. I can't remember other names because like each of these stopping like a lot of edits and everything. So yeah, so basically that's how I'm gonna leave it off here, guys. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe as always, guys. Have a blessed day.